Okay, it's Tuesday again. So we've been hearing that you like these guys, our tutorials, so we're gonna keep going with them. We think they're kind of silly, but what can we say? Terry and I came up with a project because, very honestly, it's that time of year that my sister and I always have a date towards the end of January.
Not me.
Not you,
me,
another sister. That we always get the seed catalogs out and do our flower orders and all that kind of thing. So it kind of gets you thinking a little bit springish. So Terry and I had this pattern. It's called Garden Angel.
Last Sunday was the date, by the way.
What?
You had your date for your
seed
catalogs.
We did have our date last week. We spent an awful lot of money. It's really sad.
Yeah, you enjoy it.
That's right. We do. What's better than flowers? So we found this pattern and we said, you know what, it's time for a little spring something to look forward to doing a little bit of outside work this summer. So we went ahead, I probably should turn this around.
I can walk around, Marty.
Okay. So we started into this, and of course we had to change the colors just a little bit. It's just what we do. And what we ended up doing, because she did hers all cotton, and we did wool applique in the middle. So all of this piecing on the outside is all cotton, the background is cotton, but the applique is wool. And I did also want to point out that on the center, we did use the Ultra Weft to stabilize it. Boy, I just love that stuff. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
And so we used homespuns for the background, the borders.
Right.
And then regular cottons for the little red, white, and blue squares. Okay.
So the other thing that we wanted to talk to you about
I'm going to go
today,
from this way.
Okay. The other thing we wanted to talk to you about today is that sometimes people aren't comfortable laying out a pattern like this because they're like, they want it to look exactly like the picture. And that's not something that ever bothered me, but for those of you that it does, here's a solution for it. So I laid out the angel, but then I saved, there's a flower over on this side of it. You can see it's this star flower with the crow.
Can you hold it up?
Sure. So I saved that part of it so that you can see how you can lay it out so that it will look exactly like it's supposed to. So I've got all of my pieces that are left here. So there's the stems, the little berries, and the starflower part's up front, but that's okay.
And they've all got the fusible web on the back.
They've all got the soft fuse on the back. I've gone and peeled all my papers off so that I'm all ready. Now what I've got here is an applique pressing sheet. And what you want is, now they come in different varieties. We have like a tan one, this is a white one, but as you can see, the white one shows the pattern through it clearly. So then, and the nice thing about this pattern is she gives you how things are arranged. So basically all you've got to do is come in here and start laying things on. So there's the stem. And then we're going to put this little guy here. And we're going to put this little guy over here. Tucking it under where it needs to be. So you're basically just going to go through and lay everything out. And I've got my circles all in order here, so.
And for those of us people who are kind of anal about this sort of thing, this to me is huge. Because I do not like having to figure out what everything is. I do struggle doing that. I would be the first one to admit it. So we're going to just lay it out.
I've got all my lollipops on here. And then put the leaf on the bottom.
Is the iron on?
Yes. Oh. We'll let it heat up just a little bit more. Put the leaves on. The leaves cover up all the sins on the bottom. So then just make sure everything is the way that you want it. Okay? So then, and then I would have my thing on the top. Do you want me to go get that?
Yeah, it would look nicer if you did.
Just a sec.
Today we decided these are going to be tips today. We've got this one and then we've got another one that we will bore you with or entertain you with, one or the other. I'm not quite sure.
So here's our, going back to that tip thing. When we traced off the circle, what we did is we window paned the back. And you see all the cat hair on there too, sorry. Which basically meant we took out the center of the fusible web and left only the outer ring to it. That way this leaves this a little bit softer, but everything will be anchored down that needs to be anchored down. So we'll peel that off. Arrange your star how you want it. Okay, so everything looks the way it is. Now the crow goes on top, but I'm going to add him later. So what you're going to do is you're just going to come in with your heat.
Should you not have steam, or it doesn't really matter?
Technically the steam's not going anyplace because of the plastic, but to me it just offers that little bit extra heat.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to fuse this onto the applique pressing sheet.
Well, you don't need to fuse the top of the star and circle, right?
And then the key is you got to let it cool.
Be cool.
Let it cool.
Be cool.
Don't get impatient. Do you want we'll go do your thing and then we'll come back while this cools?
It won't take that long
for
it to cool, yeah.
Because you got to let this cool down. But you can see how having the paper underneath this makes all the difference in the world. Now, if perchance you had one of the tan ones, where it's probably going to be a little bit harder to see through, what you can do is throw it all on top of your light box. Just take your light box out before you do the pressing part.
Yes.
But the light box would probably add just a little bit extra oomph to get you to see what everything's going on. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just peel this up.
Carefully.
Carefully.
Because you don't want to be stretching anything.
Well, and I say we have very, very fine lines here, or fine vines. So you're right, I don't want to stretch those.
I feel like we should have background music.
Well, we did shut it off, so.
There we go. Oh, that looks attractive.
And then it's just a matter of coming over here and arranging it all on your background.
Want that slick?
So I think she overlaps. And this is where you can go back to your picture. Kind of look, so you can see that this leaf kind of overlaps her skirt just a little bit. So we're gonna, and that little doodobby's there. That's an official term, mind you. That's there, and we'll straighten that just a little bit. And then it's just a matter of pressing it on there. Put our crow on the top with its little bit of a wing, and that'll be ready to stitch down.
Yippee skippy.
So the other thing that I wanted to point out, and I was just, Terry and I were just talking about this, when I did this hollyhock, because this is what this is over here. Instead of just buttonholing around it, I did this kind of wagon wheel, which basically is just a buttonhole stitch, except you're always bringing it back into the center. So you start on the outside edge, you take your stitch from here to here, and that creates this, and then you just keep going all the way around. And I loved it because this thread that I used was the M43, so that's really nice. You get a lot of shading in that thread. And then the other thing that I kind of noticed as I was stitching, because I did this one first and I did it in the middle. And then I'm like, well, I wonder what would happen if I did it off-centered.
You put a French knot in there.
And then the last thing I did was put a French knot in, yes. So then I started doing them off-centered, and then it looks like you're almost tilting the flower. So that was kind of a cool little accent to it.
Did you think that up yourself?
I did.
Wow.
I did on the fly. So anyway, so that's the Garden Angel. We are doing kits for these. They're $30. It has everything for the top, the binding. Threads are not included, but the wool, obviously the applique is all there, and the pattern. So if you want one of those, you can click down below and get that put into your cart when you get a chance. So now we're going to go do your tip?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so Marty's going to take the phone. Hang on.
And hopefully not cause chaos and mayhem.
Yeah, don't hit the wrong button.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, that Marty and I have spent the winter month lately trying to finish things up. And one of the projects that I really wanted to get finished up was this. This is called Be Humble. And we did these kits, and when we showed you the original kit, it was not quilted, it was not finished having all the appliques on it, it was not nothinged. So it was on my agenda, I was going to get it done. So I started doing that. The first thing I did when, and this is just my 2 cents, they did the center differently. They had a little embroidery up here, something about
of some sort, yeah.
Sunflower, whatever. I didn't like that, so I changed it. So all I had to do was do a little shifting. It was not a big deal, but I made it my own. So don't always feel you have to follow the pattern 100%. Now the next thing I did when I got started to putting it together, I thought, how am I going to quilt this puppy? So I layered it all up, and I did what we all do. The first thing is pretty much I did everything in the ditch. So I went around because this was too big.
I'm gonna come close, so we'll
I did not feel that I could applique this through the batting and the backing. It was just too much bulk. So I had originally appliqued all of my little things down. But then what I did is I got my monofilament thread out, and I went back in and I basically in the ditched all my appliques. That was the first thing I did, and it got everything stuck down really nice, so I didn't have to worry about it. Then it comes down to the backgrounds, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Because the pattern is really good about giving you some nice accent quilting, but it did not give you anything about how to do the background. So I said, okay, we can do this. So I started in the middle. So on this one, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see. Can you see this? It shows very nicely. Okay. Yeah. What I did is I just wanted to get this. I didn't want to. Marty has a phrase, and I don't want to say it exactly like she does. She likes to quilt the nasal mucus out of everything. You can all figure out what that means.
Or the excrement from your fanny, one or the other.
No. So anyways, I just wanted to get this thing nice and even. That's the key. Keep it even. So what I did on this one is I measured from here to here, and I divided it. It was going to be in 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, and I made a little mark, and I just did this and came back and did it. So I've got just this little lattice thing going in the center. So that got that taken care of. Yay, yippee skippy. I did not have a clue what I was going to do down here, so I left that. And I went to the outside border.
Chicken. Chicken.
I was a chicken. So I decided I'm going to get this outside border handled. I've got to come up with something to do.
Oh, you can see that nicely.
Can you see it? Good. Yep. And it really looks good on the bottom too. So when I started thinking, I thought, oh my gosh, look at these little hexagons in the on these these little block things here. What about if I did that for the background? So I got our catalogs out. I went online. I looked for a nice hexagon stencil, and guess what? I could not find one. I could not find one that would be the correct size or anything like that. So, hang on just one second.
Mm-hmm.
So I started thinking, and I tried to do all sorts of math, gymnastics, and let me tell you, I had spent more time.
My brain hurt.
My brain hurt, and not only that, oh no, I don't have, oh yes I do. Not only did my brain hurt, but I spent more time erasing my marks. And this is where we, remember we talked about the Sewline White Pencil was it last week? 2 weeks ago, whatever. Love it, love it, love it, because even after I put it on, I could erase some of it, but when I got all done, I just spritzed it with water and came out. So I could not figure out how to do with stencil. I tried to do math, and then I said, wait a minute, aha. And I remember back to my English paper piecing. And English paper piecing loves hexagons. So I went into my little stash bucket, and I found these hexagon templates, and it's the perfect size for what I wanted to do. So I started up in a corner, and I know this sounds really ridiculous, but I traced around that, and then I traced around that, and then I traced around that, and I traced around the whole thing. It took me a little while, but you know what? It was worth it. I love the way the background turned out. Now, my tip of wisdom for this technique, if you wanted to do that, it's very hard to be perfect because you think everything is perfectly straight, everything is perfectly touching and everything. Well, I started here, I came down to here, started here, went all the way around here. Fortunately, when I got down to here, where it's very, very busy, and they didn't line up quite perfectly, you can't see it because that nice grass is in the way. So if you're going to do something like
honeycombs aren't perfect anyway.
Honeycombs are, but it got a little bit sketchy down here, but you know what? You'll never know. So don't have it try to meet up in a place where it's really going to show. But that worked out perfectly. I was so thrilled with how it turned out. And then I thought, well, maybe what I can do is I'll just take this and cut it down and do it on the inside. And then I thought, no, that's kind of a little bit too much hexagons.
Too much of a good thing?
Too much of a good thing. So what I did is, and you all have heard me talk about this. I meant to get it out and I forgot.
A lot of that going around today.
Yeah. You've all heard me talk about my infamous round circle template that I absolutely love. Well, coincidentally, see that little white applique right there? That is exactly the size of my center.
You lucked down on that
I did. That's exactly the size of my center. So what I did is I skipped a line, I drew a half circle, skipped a line, drew a half circle. So if you look at this, there's 2 half circles, and it filled it in perfectly. And then I went back on my little embroidery stitch that I did here, and I just, with my monofilament thread, just echoed that inside, and the inside now became perfectly even. Now, the one thing I haven't done yet is this outside border, and I'm really debating. It doesn't really need it, but it could use it. So I haven't figured out what I'm going to do there. I thought I was going to do diagonal lines, but last night when I was finishing the binding at 11 o'clock, I said that's enough. We'll think about that a little bit and decide. Now, 2 things. Okay, love monofilament thread for something like this, but on the black, use the smoke monofilament, because the clear, it has a nice little shine to it, but it showed too much. Whereas the smoke monofilament blends in and you don't see it. You see the quilting, but you don't see the thread, and that's what I wanted it to do. I can't think of anything more I need to say about this. I love the way it turned out. I'm so pleased with it now. I have to put little antennas and little legs on here, and it will be done. So we still have these kits. Oh, one more thing. This one. Sorry, I'm talking fast and I'm talking a lot, but again, I did not know what to do in these things. At first I thought, oh, I'll just come in and do one of these. If it's not perfect, it's going to show. So all I did was, again, I measured this length, divided it in 4, put the marks, and I just went up, down, over, up. And I was being really artistic. I used dark gold on the light and light gold on the dark. That was my artistic
your moment.
Yeah, that was
Your
about
moment.
it. So anyways, I think that's all I want to say about this. We do have the kits available if it's something. Now it looks a whole lot better than it did before. We did add a couple of the Marty's going to swing around again. Yep. 2 more. We put 2 more Orphan Kits on the web. This one is called Home.
It's a little wool work.
Happy Home. I'm sorry. Happy Home doesn't include the frame, but it includes all this stuff, and the kit is $22.50 on sale. And then this one is 16th Avenue Phlox. I don't know why they called it that, but this one was fun to do. It really was. So those 2, and that one is going to be $18.75.
You have to tell them how you cut out all of those little blossoms.
Well, though. I didn't know if they would really want to know.
Real quick.
Okay, real quick. On these little, what you did, okay, I wasn't worried about dimensionality. I was more worried about these things not falling off. So I took a couple strips of the wool and I put fusible web behind them, the soft fuse. And then I cut out a zillion of these squares. Okay? Then I sat there one night with my scissors and I took a V out of each side. Chink, 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 chink. It was not hard to do. Then when I stitched them on, and let me find one that you can really see. This one. I did an X from the cut to the V, and then I put 3 or 4 little French knots on there. And that's all it was. I really like this one. And I love the way the greenery came out. So anyways, those are the 2 kits we're putting on for orphans this week. So that's it. That's our tip. It's the quilting on the Be Humble. It's the Everything Grows with Love
Garden Angel.
And if you have any questions, you know where we are. See you next week.